Key Safety Systems Control of Hazardous Energy or Lockout Tagout Training Program. The OSHA standard for the control of hazardous energy or lockout tagout covers the servicing and maintenance of machines and equipment in which unexpected startup or release of stored energy could cause injury to employees. An authorized employee is an employee who performs service or maintenance on machines and equipment. Lockout and tagout is used by these employees for their own protection. Affected employees are employees who perform duties of his or her job in an area in which the energy control procedure is implemented and servicing or maintenance operations are being performed. Lockout-tagout devices are used to control different types of energy. Mechanical energy is motion at some position relative to a zero potential energy position. Hydraulic energy is what is produced by water which is stored in reservoirs and lakes at high altitudes. Pneumatic energy pertains to the power related to pressurized air. Chemical energy is stored in the bonds of chemical compounds. It is released in a chemical reaction, often producing heat as a byproduct. Thermal energy is energy that comes from heat. The lockout-tagout procedure covers the following activities: constructing, installing, setting up, adjusting, inspecting, modifying, maintaining and/or servicing machines or equipment where employees could be exposed to unexpected energization or release of hazardous energy. Lockout-tagout rules apply to servicing and maintenance activities when the employee must either remove or bypass machine guards or safety devices, resulting in exposure to hazards at the point of operation. Also, when the employee is required to place any part of his or her body in contact with the point of operation of the operational machine or piece of equipment. Lastly, when the employee is required to place any of his or her body parts in the danger zone associated with the machine operating cycle. If an energy isolating device is capable of being locked out, it must be locked out, unless it can be shown that a tagout system provides full employee protection. Here are a few examples of different types of lockout-tagout devices. Lockout-tagout written procedures must contain the following: preparation for shutdown, shutting down the equipment, equipment isolation, application of lockout-tagout devices, release of stored energy, and verifying equipment isolation. When preparing for shutdown, it is important to know the types and amounts of energy that powers it, and to know the hazards of the energy and how to control it. When shutting down the equipment, use operating controls and follow whatever procedure is right for the equipment to avoid endangering anyone during the shutdown. In equipment isolation, operate all energy isolating devices so that the equipment is isolated from its energy sources. Be sure to isolate all energy sources. Never remove a fuse instead of disconnecting. When applying the lockout-tagout devices, all energy isolating devices are to be locked, tagged, or both. Only standardized devices can be used, and they are not to be used for anything else. Use a lockout device if your lock cannot be placed directly on the energy control. When lockout is used, every employee in the work crew must attach his personal lock. Inspect the system to make sure all parts have stopped moving. Relieve trapped pressure. Block or brace parts that could fall due to gravity. Bleed lines and vent valves open. If stored energy can reaccumulate, monitor it so it stays below hazardous levels. Make sure all danger areas are clear of personnel. Verify that the main disconnect switch or circuit breaker can't be moved to the on position. Press all start buttons and other activating controls on the equipment itself and return controls to the off position when testing is complete. When performing work, look ahead and avoid doing anything that could reactivate the equipment. Don't bypass the lockout when installing new piping or wiring. When removing lockout tagout devices, make sure the equipment is safe to operate by removing all tools from the work area and making sure the system is fully assembled. Safeguard all employees by conducting a head count to make sure everyone is clear of the equipment. Also, notify everyone in the work area that lockout tagout is being removed. Remove the lockout tagout device. Each device must be removed by the person who applied it. When contractors are on site, the outside contractor and the on-site employer must exchange lockout tagout information. Employees on site must understand rules used by the contractor and also be alert for new types of lockout tagout devices. If servicing lasts more than one shift, lockout tagout protection must not be interrupted. When the employee who applied the device is not there to remove it, it can be removed only in emergencies and under the direction of supervision, and in compliance with the lockout tagout procedure. It is a violation of lockout tagout and OSHA to put your key in a spot where others can get it. Lockout tagout devices must contain the following characteristics: durability, standardized, substantial, and identifiable. Lockout and tagout devices must withstand the environment to which they are exposed for the maximum duration of the expected exposure. Tagout devices must be constructed and printed so that they do not deteriorate or become illegible, especially when used in corrosive or wet environments. Both lockout and tagout devices must be standardized according to color, shape, or size. Tagout devices must also be standardized according to print and format. Lockout and tagout devices must be substantial enough to minimize early or accidental removal. Tag means of attachment must be non-reusable, attached by hand, self-locking and non-reusable, with a minimum unlocking strength of no less than 50 pounds. Locks and tags must clearly identify the employee who has applied them. Tags must also warn against hazardous conditions if the machine or equipment is energized and must include a legend such as "Do not start," "Do not open," "Do not close," "Do not energize," and "Do not operate." Periodic inspection must be performed at least annually to ensure that the energy control procedures continue to be implemented properly and that the employees are familiar with their responsibilities. Health, Safety, and Environmental Department is responsible for conducting this annual inspection, and they must certify that the inspections have been performed. The certification must identify the machine or equipment, the date of inspection, the employees included, and the name of the person performing the inspection. The periodic inspection also must identify any deficiencies or deviations and be corrected immediately. For future questions, please reference the lockout-tagout procedure PS 000601.